The practice of hospice palliative care in Canada began in the 1970s and has evolved rapidly, adapting to keep pace with the changes of people's experience of illness and dying. Because of medical advances, people are now living much longer, years, even decades. In June 2016, the federal government enacted Bill C-14, legalizing assisted death under certain circumstances, and adopted the term medical assistance in dying. Medical assistance in dying includes both euthanasia and assisted suicide. Most Canadians die predominantly of old age and progressive ill health. It is estimated that 95% of deaths would benefit from palliative care, yet as many as 70% of Canadians lack access because hospice and palliative care programs are unevenly distributed across Canada. My opponent argues that taxpayers' dollars support publicly funded palliative care and hospice, and that the Canadian government allocating these funds has agreed that the right to choose death ultimately and legally belongs to the dying person. Yes, the government has allocated these funds, yet only 16 to 30% of Canadians have access to or have received palliative care. It's wonderful that the government has provided funds to support publicly funded palliative care and hospice, but it's a shame and very unfortunate that the taxpayers have limited access to these services. The right to end a life that an individual finds intolerable has to be considered in association with its resulting impacts on other rights, regulations, and the responsibilities of healthcare professionals. My opponent points out that palliative and hospice settings have a multidisciplinary team with expertise in death and dying, and have much to offer a person who chooses medically assisted dying. In fact, though, palliative care and hospice care is delivered by a team of health professionals who are dedicated to addressing the needs of patients, caregivers, and relatives. Hospice palliative care providers respects the patient's right to choose and will not abandon the patient. Healthcare providers will continue to assess the patient's reasons for their choice, provide the same compassionate care to these individuals, and to address the concerns of those families. But they also have a choice not to participate or to be expected to assist in any efforts that intentionally hastens death. In addition, palliative care physicians across the country have indicated a strong preference not to be involved in medically assisted death. In fact, 75% of the 350 surveyed palliative care physicians in Canada indicated the stance on the recent Supreme Court decision. The information, data, and research I've presented depicts why medically assisted dying should not be regulated in publicly funded palliative care or hospice settings. My worthy opponent has brought forward valid points and questions that unarguably need to be evaluated. However, those arguments are not adequate reasons to make medically assisted dying regulated. In the end, it all comes down to choice. I will defend the right of all people facing death imminently to have access to palliative care to the highest possible quality. I will defend equal vigor the right of an individual to choose to continue palliative care until his or her death of natural causes. It's important for Canadians to understand that medically assisted death is not a part of the end of life care, and that palliative care should be made universal to all. Thank you.